All right, guys, so what we started talking about yesterday is finding the side lengths on a 45, 45, 90-degree right triangle for these special right triangles. And what we came to the conclusion yesterday is that one, that the lengths of the sides opposite the 45-degree angles are going to be what? The same. So whatever this length is going to be also. And the hypotenuse is whatever this length is times the square root of 2. So there were two main situations that we came across. The first is that we are giving a triangle, 45, 45, 90, and we are told a length of one of the sides. And we wanted to find the other side and the hypotenuse. And this is one of the first cases that we came across. Now, whenever we got this, well, the two sides opposite the 45 degrees were the same. So x in this case would be what? 7. Now, to get the hypotenuse, we took the length of the leg and did what? Multiplied it by square root of 2. So in this case here, the length of the leg is 7, and we would multiply it by the square root of 2, getting square root of 2. So the value of y here is 7 square root of 2. Now the other case we came across is if we're given a right triangle and we're told that the hypotenuse is, say, 14, and we want to find the values of x and y in a 45, 45, 90. Well, we know that the 14 is the hypotenuse is because it's opposite the side, opposite the right angle. So this has to be the hypotenuse. And if we're given the hypotenuse, we can find the leg by dividing the hypotenuse by what? The square root of 2, and this will give us the length of the legs. So in this case here, we have the hypotenuse as being 14, and we can divide it by the square root of 2 to find out what the legs are. So at this point here, we can pull the calculator up. And I believe I said 14, yes? So we can take 14 and divide it by second square root of 2. And we can type this into the calculator, and if we hit enter, it tells us that the two legs are both going to be 7 square root of 2. So this here, 7 square root of 2. So that means the value of x is 7 square root of 2, and the value of y is 7 square root of 2. And that's all we have to do for this here. So really, in either setup, if we're given one of the legs, well, we automatically know what the other leg is because they both have to be the same. And to find the hypotenuse, we take whatever that amount is and multiply it by square root of 2. If they give us the hypotenuse, well, we divide it by the square root of 2. We get the two legs, and we're done. And it'll work like this for every single case. Now, yesterday, we went through most of these here. And I think we ended on this one. We finished this one up. So when we did this one yesterday, because 3 square root of 5 is the hypotenuse because it's opposite the right angle, yes? Or did we get this far? Okay. So if we were doing this again, we would take 3 square root of 5 and do what? Divide it by? Because if we're given the hypotenuse to get the other two legs, we divide by the square root of 2. So we can take 3 square root of 5 divided by the square root of 2, or we can say 3 square root of 5 divided by the square root of 2. We can have it in either form. And we can take our calculator and say 3 second square root of 5 divided by second square root of 2. And if we hit enter, we get 3 square root of 10 over 2, which is exactly what we found yesterday, yes? So y here is 3 square root of 10 over 2, and x is 3 square root of 10 over 2. And that would be our answers. All right. Let's look at the next one. So we do want to find the value of x and the value of y for this one here. Now, the length that they gave us, is it one of the legs or the hypotenuse? One of the legs because it's opposite the 45-degree angle. Which other leg, which one is the other leg? Y. So what's the value of y going to be? Square root of 2, because the two legs are always going to be the same. The sides opposite the 45 degrees are going to be the same. And to find the hypotenuse, we do what? Well, we take the leg and multiply it by what? So, well, what's the length of the leg? So square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is what we need to do. So we can plug it in here, second square root 2 times second square root 2. And if we type this in and hit enter, we get 2. And part of the way this works out is, well, square root of 2 times square root of 2 is the square root of 4, and well, the square root of 4 is 2. So the value of x here is 2. Any questions on this here? So this one here, we want to find the values of a and b. So 5 square root of 2, is it going to be the hypotenuse or one of the legs? One of the legs, because it is opposite the 45-degree angle, which means the other side opposite the 45 degrees is the one with b. So the variable b is going to be what? 5 square root of 2. And what do we need to do to find the hypotenuse? Yep, multiply the leg by the square root of, so we're taking 5 square root of 2 and multiplying it by what? Square root of 2. Well, square root of 2 times square root of 2 is the square root of 4. And what is the square root of 4? So 5 times 2 is? So a is? Any questions on this so far? Have the values that went here, here, or here made any difference in what we've been doing? No, because it's not about what the lengths are, because we could have really different lengths, like this one here, 5 square root of 3 over 3. But the process that we're doing, does it change? Well, no, because all of what we're focused on is either is it giving us a leg, one of the sides opposite the 45 degrees, or the hypotenuse is really what matters. And here, did they give us a leg, the side opposite the 45 degrees, or the hypotenuse? Hypotenuse, because it's the side opposite the 90-degree angle, because hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle, yes. So they gave us the hypotenuse. Well, if I want to find one of the legs, what do we do with the hypotenuse? We divide it by the square root of 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 5 square root of 3 over 3 and do what? Divide it by the square root of 2. And we can write it this way here, or we can put it over the square root of 2. Yes. Yes. So we can say 5 second square root 3 over 3 in the calculator first. Then we could say divided by second square root 2 and hit enter. And we would get 5 square root of 6 over 6. Now we could have typed this in as a fractional fraction. So we can say 5 second square root 3 over 3. And put it as the numerator over second square root of 2. Like this here, and hit enter. It'll still give us 5 square root of 6 over 6. But we do need to be careful with that to make sure that it doesn't treat 3 over square root of 2 as the main part of the fraction. So we could do it as the way we did before, 5 square root of 3 over 3, move over, divided by square root of 2, and it will do the same thing. Yep. Yeah. Five square root of 6 over 6. This one? Oh. Yeah. This here? Okay. Yeah, so this here would be the values for what? Y and X. So that's all we need to do to find the values of X and Y for this here, the two missing sides. Questions on any of this here? So what would we do for this one here? Because this here is one of the legs. So to find the hypotenuse, we take the leg and multiply it by the square root of 2, which will give us the hypotenuse. So we'll take 9, well, if I can write, 9 square root of 2 over 2. Yeah, if we got the hypotenuse, we divide it by the square root of 2. And if we have the legs, we multiply by the square root of 2. Exactly. You'll get the hypotenuse. Well, then we're done. Because what am I trying to find here? I'm trying to find the leg and the hypotenuse. Well, what is this leg going to be? 9 square root of 2 over 2, yes? Well, if I want to get to the hypotenuse, I multiply the legs by the square root of 2. So if I do this here, it actually gives me 9. Well, then I would have the hypotenuse, yes? If I divided 9 by the square root of 2, what would I get? Because if I have the hypotenuse and divide it by the square root of 2, I get to the legs. If I have the legs, I can multiply it by the square root of 2 to get to the hypotenuse. And that's it. Any other questions on this here? And that's it. So the real big thing with this here, if we have the hypotenuse, we can divide it by the square root of 2 to get the legs. If I have the legs, I can multiply it by the square root of 2 to get to the hypotenuse.